Nancy told me I have to use a microphone, even though I love yelling, but we are recording this, so I want to make sure that everybody online can hear me. Good evening. Hi, welcome. My name is Kellen Tardyweather. I'm a senior siting analyst from the Oregon Department of Energy. One moment here, Nancy, are we recording? Okay. We are live online. So for the folks that are online, can you check and make sure they can hear us and everything? Okay. So like I said, my name's Kellen Tardyweather. I have to start all over again. I appreciate everybody being here. We're here for the informational meeting on the notice of intent to apply for an application for site certificate for the Klamath Falls Energy Center. I'm sure you all know why we're here. We're going to want to go over to the, I'm joined tonight by my colleagues Chase McVeigh Walker, Kate Sloan, Nancy Hatch, and then I have folks from our project proponent or the developer team, and they're going to present here shortly. I just have a short intro. Oh, I'm so sorry. Where is she? Where's Ann Byer? We have one of our council members of the Energy Facility Siting Council. She is here. She lives up near Bend, so she came down for the informational meeting. Thanks for coming. I'll talk a little bit more about what that actually means and who she is here in a second. Okay, next slide, please. This is our agenda. So we did our meet and greet. Thank you, everybody. We're going to kick off. The applicant's going to do a little bit of intro about Ørsted and their company and the project. And then I'm going to go over some process questions and where we're at in that. And then we're going to get to our actual comment period. And thank you, folks, for submitting comments. Can you hand me one of those things for anybody just getting here? If you'd like to provide an oral comment or a written comment, please fill this out and hand it over to us. These are over in, hey, Chase, could you bring this nice young lady a comment card? And then just hand that in to us. We're probably going to do a time limit just so we can kind of get through them. When we get to that, we'll just see how many people want to comment. And I did want to lead off with, I had a couple people raise concerns about the comment deadline right now, which is March 15th, which is next Friday. I'm sorry, 13th, thank you. And they brought it up to the applicant team too. And then I've talking to my colleagues and we'd like to extend it another week. So 2 more weeks to March 20th. Does that sound reasonable to folks? Okay. Okay. So that means so that we can accept the written comments through March 20th. And then what we'll do is I'll kind of remind people through the presentation and we'll update our project webpage and we'll send out an electronic notification, which on that, there is a QRC code and a sign-up sheet back there for folks that would like to sign up to receive the electronic notifications for any time something happens with this project. So please sign up over there. And it would be 5 p.m. Pacific time on the comment closure period on March 20th. Okay, I am going to pass it off to the applicant team and then we're going to do more process. And if anybody has questions about anything, please ask them and I can totally answer them. That's why we're here tonight.
All right, can you hear me? Oh, yeah, hot mic. All right, cool. Okay, I am Amy Shanahan with Ørsted. We're the developer for the Klamath Falls Energy Center. First, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I realize everyone could be at home eating dinner and instead you're here because you care a lot about your community and want to give us input on this project. So thank you so much for that. Next slide. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of Ørsted and then we're going to dive into the project. I have, received some questions about who we are. So who are we? Ørsted's a leading clean energy company. We do all phases of development. So we develop, we construct, we operate wind, solar, and battery projects throughout the US and throughout the world. So we have a lot of experience with these types of projects. Next slide. Okay, so we are one of the biggest solar developers in the US. We were actually the second largest installer in 2024. I'm going to show you a couple projects that we've built that are under operation right now. So in addition to our land-based portfolio, we actually have the first operating offshore wind project in the US as well. Next slide. This is our footprint. You can see we've added the Klamath Falls project to the state of Oregon there. But we've got a big footprint. We have a ton of experience with solar and battery projects. We have 10 gigawatts of projects under development and operation. Over 6 gigawatts of those are operational now. Next slide. In total, our operating projects contribute over $1 billion in property tax revenue to the counties that they operate in. So that's a real benefit to the local community that these projects provide. And so again, we have over 10 gigawatts, lots of experience throughout the US of projects in our pipeline. Next.
Oops, sorry. There you go.
So in addition to providing a benefit through property taxes, we also contribute millions of dollars within our local partnerships, whether it's for nonprofits or charities. We understand that these projects impact the community, and we want to give back, as much as we can to the areas that we operate in. Next slide. Let's talk about Klamath Falls Energy Center. This project is proposed. We're in the early concept phase right now. I have gotten a lot of questions about the details. That'll come later. Right now, our focus is getting feedback and sort of, understanding the considerations for the project. Right now, we're proposing a 400 megawatt solar plus 400 megawatt battery or BESS project. Just to put it in perspective, that's enough power for 70,000 homes.
We'll do, I'm sure that there's questions and we can do like a Q&A, but maybe let's do that when we get to the comment period, if that's okay. Thanks.
Okay, so the survey size, which you've seen on the map, is approximately 8,000 acres. That's industrial forest land that's privately owned. This project will not be agricultural land. It's industrial forest land entirely. Estimated operations are approximately 2032. These projects take some time to be developed and built. This is a high-level operational potential timeline right now. Interconnection is with the Pacific-Core utility. There is a 500 kV line that runs within the project area, which will be the point of interconnection for the project. The project is expected to create over 150 construction jobs during construction, which is approximately 2 years, and then will require additional permanent jobs during the operational period. Next slide. There you go. High-level timeline, what happens between now and 2032, and sorry, the formatting's a little bit skewed here, but I'll walk you through it. So we have filed what's called a notice of intent for the project, and that's an intent to file a permit application later. Next steps will be to get feedback and input from the community. We want to hear about how are you guys using this land? What are some of the important visual features? Those types of things that we should be thinking about that we can then incorporate into our design, which will come later. We'll also be conducting environmental surveying this year. That will help us understand what the constraints are within this larger survey area and allow us to really progress a more detailed design, which will probably end up being, half of this acreage or less. but it'll help us understand the constraints to perform that environmental surveying. So that will be, for example, where the wetlands, the wildlife corridors, those types of features, in addition to cultural. So that will be next steps, and then we will submit a permit application after that and progress detailed engineering, and then construction will happen approximately in the 2030 timeline, with operations expected in 2032. And that's high level for now. That may change later. Next slide. This map was included in the notice of intent materials, and I realize there's not a lot of detail on this particular map, but what it shows is a survey boundary. And so again, our goal is to understand what the constraints are within this survey area, so then we can use that information to inform a detailed design later on, recognizing that there are a lot of constraints within this area. We know there are hiking trails, we know there are wildlife corridors, there are wetlands, there are cultural resources, all of these important things that we need to take into consideration and avoid and maybe come out of our project area entirely. So this is high level. This is not, this red line does not represent an area that will be clear cut and fenced, for example. That's not, you know, how that will work. So I wanted to put that out there just to provide that clarification. And we'll have more detail later. But again, given that we're at this very early stage, we don't have that yet. And, you know, we really need the input and the surveying, et cetera, in order to progress those details. Next slide. I wanted to just show a few examples of projects that we have under operation right now. So you can just flip through those. This is a solar storage project in Arizona, outside of Phoenix. Next one. This is our Mockingbird solar project in Texas. This is a another solar plus storage project in Texas. And this is a more recent one, a solar that had a storage add-on this year, actually, in Texas. So this kind of gives you an example of projects that we've built successfully that are under operation. Next slide. Just one comment on batteries. The benefit of batteries that they'll provide grid reliability and flexibility for the utility for PacifiCorp, that they allow you to store energy when it's abundant and then discharge energy when it's needed. And again, we have a lot of experience with this. We have a number of BESS projects that are operating safely right now. Last slide. Again, we really appreciate you all being here. I've had an opportunity to talk with a few of you, and, you know, recognizing how important this land and how personal this land is to so many of you. You know, we really want your feedback. This project won't be successful if it's not compatible with the needs of the local community. We understand that. And so we really appreciate your input. You can reach out to me on the project team outside of the official Department of Energy comment period. Even when that closes, which is extended on the 20th, you can reach out to us if you think of anything, if you want to meet, etc. We're available. Here's our contact. I've given you some of you my business card as well. So please reach out, and we appreciate you being here again. Thank you.
All righty, thank you. Now the really exciting stuff is process. I got what I'm walking. I can't be that way, okay? Because I know I pace around. I get, you know, I'm one of those people when I talk on the phone, I like run in circles. So I'm gonna go over again. I want to keep this brief. But there is also a lot of details, and what I really want to reiterate is that we're really in the very beginning of this process. As I had mentioned, this meeting is being recorded. I see some folks taking pictures of the presentation. This presentation is already on our project webpage. And immediately after this meeting wraps up tonight, and probably by, tomorrow, anyways, soon after this meeting, we will also post the recording for this meeting on our project webpage. And then we will also update the project webpage with that March 20th comment deadline. So let's go over why we're here. The Oregon Department of Energy. We are staff to the Oregon Energy Facility Siting Council. It's a mouthful, or FSEC, or council. The council is a 7-member volunteer body that's appointed by the governor and confirmed by the Senate. The council is the ultimate decision maker on these large energy projects in Oregon. I'm sure that some of you are familiar with some of the other solar projects in Klamath County and in adjacent counties that probably just went through the county level process to be reviewed. The reason why we're here today through this, there's different categories, but it usually is an acreage threshold. When you get to a certain acreage size, that's when it triggers the council's jurisdiction, and then it goes through the state's process. So that is why we are here. So I am the Oregon Department of Energy. We are in this small subset of the department, or ODO, that's the siting division, and we are staff to FSEC. So we do the technical and legal review and present and do community outreach for FSEC projects. And really our job is to, it's very exciting, review applicable rules and statutes to what applies to these projects and whether or not they meet standards. It's exciting. So that's FSEC and ODO. Again, the council is the decision maker. So we're going to talk about all these different steps on one of my next slides, but just keep in mind that ultimately council is the decision maker. And as I had mentioned, I have Ann Beyer here, who's one of our council members. So thank you for coming down. The council's review process is not, it's triggered by the threshold, but it's also intended to be a consolidated review, which means that it's to remove any duplication of permitting that may be needed for an energy project like this. One of the permits that is generally wrapped up in the council's process, which is the applicant or the project proponent can elect to either go and get their conditional use permit from the county, or they can elect for the council to make that decision. This applicant, and most applicants we see, choose to have the conditional use permit, or they kind of like the county's process for reviewing what's applicable to that facility. Have the council do that. That said, we work hand in hand with the county to understand what the county would do if they were doing it themselves. And so that's what we try to understand and that we recommend to council. So the other thing is the decisions and appeal pathways. The council's process has one, which we'll get to that later, but one appeal pathway. We have opportunities for public participation. This is one of them. Thank you so much for being here. And then one of the really important things that we spend a lot of time doing is outreach with our reviewing agencies. So we are required along the way to reach out and coordinate with our tribal counterparts. I don't know where Chairman Ray went. Okay. There he is. Oh, and like ODF&W, Oregon Department of Aviation, Oregon Department of Agriculture. So we work with all these agencies through the process. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's this chevron. I really want to emphasize, like, we're here, right? We're in the very beginning. I think a lot of you folks have looked at like the notice and you're like, it's 8,600 acres. And I opened it up and I looked and I have no idea. There's no information. I'm not going to say that is kind of the intent, right? This is a very, as they explained, this is in the very early concept stages. The important part of getting feedback at this point is so that the applicant can receive information, particularly when it comes to specific resources or impacts that need to be considered that may change the way that they would build out and engineer their project. I really want to note here, and it is very typical for projects that go and get reviewed and approved by council. These things are massive, 10,000 acres, 8,000 acres, 6,000 acres. But that's not ultimately what gets built out. They do that because it usually follows some sort of property boundary. And then in there's usually a solar area that ends up being, I'm making things up here. I'm not thinking of a specific project, but that would be like 2,000 acres that's actually built out within that bigger footprint. So that is very, very typical. Not to get off tangent, but with wind projects, because of how certain property lines lay, you might have a wind project that's like 20,000 acres, but your actual impact from the actual wind project is like 1,200 acres. So this is something that we typically see. So this is important. Notice of intent, as you folks notice, we issued notice. We're in a comment period right now. We traveled down to the location where a project is located. We have this informational meeting. I'm also doing a lot of outreach with those reviewing agencies because we're trying to get feedback from folks on, is there something that we don't know out there? What should we know that we should pass on to the developer that they can take into consideration for their project? So I have a couple more slides, but we're gonna take all that information, we're gonna put it into this really interesting document called a project order. It's this long document that the department drafts and we give to them, and it tells them everything they need to include in their application for site certificate. The application is your application. It's your application for a permit. It's very long, and so that's what the project order does, which is the next step. So everything that happens here, the things that really need to be lifted go in there, and it goes into the project order, and that's what says that they have to get in their application. And then we get a preliminary application. Once that preliminary application is submitted, we go to work. We review that thing, and we ask for information requests. We share it with our reviewing agencies. We really get into the weeds with this preliminary application. And it's really actually where the department, we kind of go dormant for a little while because there's just a lot. We're going back and forth, and we really review that information until the information's like adequate for us to make findings and recommendations. And then we deem that application complete. And then we're going to issue another public notice like we did for this. And we're going to come back down and we're going to do another informational meeting. The difference is that there's not a comment period for that. That's where we're setting everybody up for the next time we're going to come down, which is kind of shortly after. And that's the really important part, because we're going to take all of that information from that complete application and we're going to write another really interesting long document. They are really fascinating. And it's called the draft proposed order. And once we issue that, that is the document that we really want you folks to open up. It's going to have so much detail. You're going to love it. It's great reading. But that's what that's what we want folks to then comment on. The commenting on the draft proposed order is what retains your ability, when I mentioned appeal pathways, to participate later on in the project. But getting comments then, we are going to get them, and then we give them over to the applicant, and then they can respond to those comments. And the whole idea is really we're trying to hash out issues or find critical flaws. And then that comment period closes, and then our next, I don't have a little light thing, but our next step is a proposed order. The proposed order is still, council has not made a decision yet. We've taken, the council will review the draft proposed order and the comments and responses received. And then after that happens, council will give us direction, but then we'll issue the proposed order, which is still Odo's document. It's still kind of like a recommendation. And then that proposed order will be responsive to comments and all of that. And so we'll issue that. When we issue that, we issue the notice of proposed order and contested case. And so at that point in time, for the folks that commented on the draft proposed order in a way that retains their ability to participate later, they can request to participate in the contested case, which is, it's a full-blown legal proceeding to litigate valid issues that were raised on the draft proposed order. I'm gonna pause there. That's a lot of process. Any questions? Process, ma'am, blue shirt?
understand, every single person that knows what you're planning is totally against the area you want to put it. Put it out in the desert where there's no trees.
All right, ma'am, it's just process questions, so I'll get back to that. I'll actually hold off until the public comment period. So, after the contested case, then that order goes, the order from the hearing officer will go in front of council, and council ultimately will make a final decision. So next slide. Okay, so what are the things that are going to be in that application, right? So you kind of saw some of the things, the information in the notice of intent is kind of a setup for some of the things that you'll see in the application. These are the standards that every applicant has to demonstrate that they meet to get their approval from council. Did you fill out a card, ma'am? Oh.
People, we never saw.
Okay, so when we issue our notice, which thank you for bringing that up, so we mail out a paper notice to adjacent property owners within like a boundary around the impacted property. They get a mailed notice. I know, now I understand that I heard some people that was really delayed. And I don't know anybody else who's like shipping things, but it just seems like there are delays with mail. So if you are having issues and you think that you, one of my colleagues, Kate has her computer here, she can pull up the property owner list. And then you can give her her name. We can actually see if you were on that list or if you should be, because it might be that you're outside of the property boundary. So, so we mailed the notice. We also publish in a newspaper. I know it may be archaic, but we also, everything we do is defined by rules, right? So the rules say, you guys got to do this. If that's what the rules say and the statutes, like that's what we do, right? And so we try to be adaptive and listen to communities. If there's certain things that this see about how they want to receive, it would be like courtesy noticing. Our formal noticing is exactly this: mailed property owners, newspaper we issue in our electronic notice, so anybody that signed up would receive those, and then we like post on our webpage. Anyways, yeah, so that's, so let's, tonight, let's see if we can, if you think that you were an adjacent property owner and you did not get noticed, let's, Kate can pull it up and we can check your name and see if you should or shouldn't be on there. And yes, sir, in the hat. But again, just process questions, please. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. It would be mailed to whatever address is on your like county tax roll, whatever the county has your mailing address to be. That whatever the county has, whatever the tax assessor has your address to be, that's what we would be using. Sir in red shirt? Yes, what is it? Read me it's 500 feet from the edge of, so from the edge of, well, it's from the edge of the property impacted from the site boundary. All right, folks, let's proceed, because I think that we can also do some of this in the Q&A, just so so that like we can record everything, because there may be people online who can't hear this and I want to be mindful of them. And again, this is also why, we're here, because some of you, right, are like, I just heard about it through a neighbor, right? And anyhow, so let's try to work on that. But I do encourage everybody to sign up via the click dimensions, so you get the electronic notice, and then we'll try to deal with the mailed notice as best we can, right? It's an imperfect system, but we're trying to, we try to do our best, and we got to do the same thing for every project. And in some places it's more successful than others, but we're trying to do better, and that's why we're here now. Okay, so let's go through here. So here's the council standards. These are the things that there's going to be a ton of information. when they had mentioned that, they're gonna go out and do environmental surveying, there's gonna be a lot of surveying that's done, right? And then all that information is gonna be compiled over here. And then this is also, I had some examples from some of the comments that I've received so far, but I think I'm going to, I think I'm gonna just skip that and maybe we can address them if we have some questions that raise that, because I just want to be mindful of the time at 6:30. So, all right, let's go to the next one. Okay, so commenting on the notice of intent, this slide is already out of date. We've extended the comment period. Again, I mentioned what we want, like as specific comments about impacts or resources that you have knowledge about that we or the applicant should know about. Next slide. Okay, how to submit comments. You can give comments tonight, written or oral. You can mail them to me, you can email them to me, or we have a comment portal. And all of this information and more information is on our project webpage. Okay, what happens to our comments? As I said, we're gonna lift these comments, and when there's little nuggets in your comment, we're like, that's a good point, right? Somebody provided a written comment, forgive me, I don't remember your name if you're here, but it was talking about the Forest Practices Act. And we're like, yeah, right? We don't see a lot of projects in forest lands. And we are gonna look into that and be like, are there applicable portions of the Forest Practices Act that the applicant should address and include in their application? So we're gonna look into that, and if so, we're gonna lift that out, and it would go into that document, that project order that says you gotta include this information in your application. So that's just an example. And moving forward. Okay, there's how to submit comments, we did that one.
Oh, whoops,
Oh.
wrong way.
Forward, backwards, what happens? Helpful resources, and again, this presentation is on our webpage, but we have like tons of resources. Some of you have handouts here. We have a new public guide that it goes into detail about everything I've talked about tonight. Okay, next page.
Whoops, I went.
This is a snippet of the project webpage. Woo! Please go there. We try to keep it up to date. Also, there are links to a docket system where we actually load and you can look at other comments that people have provided. And last slide here, and this is our ORESA tool, which is Oregon Renewable Energy Siting Assessment Tool. We love really long names. But it's kind of like a GIS map. You can go in there and click on it, and you could zoom into the site, and then you could do things like click layers like soil types or habitat categories, protected areas, and you can kind of toggle in and out, if you're savvy with that. Anyways, it is another tool to help you see what resources are around. And now I'm gonna stop talking. Sorry, thank you for listening to me. All right, so we are going to start a Q&A. I'm gonna kind of MC this. We are going to limit time to, what's it, 3 minutes? Okay, we're gonna do folks in the room first, and I do wanna invite Chairman Ray up first. Where did you go? If he would like, from the Klamath tribes? Okay, if he'd like to provide comments, I'm gonna invite him to go first, and then if anybody from the county. All right. Yeah, go first. Here, you can take this. You can take.
3 minutes, and for 18,000 years, I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it. I want to just say Mosep Ketcha to everyone here to allow me to speak on behalf of our relatives that can't speak for themselves, and that's the water, the fish, the plants, the animals. And we got to find a balance, as I made mention last week. And the real issue that plagues on our minds as Indian people is, what are we going to leave our future generations? What kind of world are we going to leave our generations to come? And that worries us, because we've done some things that probably wasn't the best for our world. And we get it as Indian people, but we're wanting to think smartly about it. Here's a couple thoughts that we've come up with so far. We haven't made no official decision as an elected body to oppose or to support the project, okay? Because we're weighing like 4 to 5 others. And here's really the other issue that needs to be brought up in front of this body is the cumulative impacts on all these projects, right? We have this one that's a 7,000 acre project. We have another one up north along Highway 138. That's a 1,500 acre project. We have another one looking at Christmas Valley. We have a 500 kV line that's going to come from Chiloquin back to Prineville to support a data center up there. We have the Swan Lake pumping station that's always been opposed by the Klamath tribes. So what are the cumulative effects of all these projects? Because the animals don't know no boundaries. The fish don't know no boundaries, the plants. So when they run into these things, it just stops them, right? From moving that they would naturally move. And we got to be cognizant of these kinds of matters. But here again, here's the biggest issue that we're pressing on, is that the commercial timberlands that are owned by the Green Diamond Resource Company, these lands are forest landscapes that are actively managed for timber production under the state forest practices regulations. Although these lands are intensively managed for timber production, may not always represent a mature or intact forest conditions, but they still represent forest conditions. So when you decide to eliminate such a large tract of land and create a essentially down to bare dirt, it's going to have some effects, right? And here again, conversion of these lands into a solar infrastructure would have a long-term removal of the forest land that we all enjoy. No matter how much it's modified or treated for forest, it's still a forest in all of our eyes, right? Specifically, now we think about statewide goal 4 specifically directs that forest lands be conserved and maintained for forest uses. These projects do not do that. They eliminate all that. So here again, if we're really looking at more fragmentation of an ecosystem from a timber standpoint, this project would do that. And our question is to the state of Oregon is, does that meet goal 4 in our eyes? The other thing that we looked into was the Klamath tribes. We conducted a very preliminary, and we're talking about preliminary, spatial review of the public available environmental data sets, which include the Fish and Wildlife Service from the United States, where they have critical habitat designation for spotted owl, northern spotted owl, Pacific salmon, essential fish habitat, and U.S. Forest Service wildfire risk to communities, bird probability data sets. And what we found was that the footprint lies immediately adjacent to federally designated northern spotted owl habitat. Of course, that infrastructure and the increased human activity causes a certain amount of fragmentation for that species. We all know that. The other issue that has to be looked into is all the issue under the Endangered Species Act. And here again, we're dealing with that right now with our twom and cockatoo, our sucker species, because they are on the brink of extinction since 1988. So we're really concerned about some of these things about further fragmentation. The other thing that we looked into was that under the Pacific, excuse me for a minute, is that the essential fish habitat for the Pacific salmon, which we all are grateful, happy, thankful, I mean, we're to get our relatives back. You know, we had 200 of them make it past Beatty Gap, all right, in October. And here again, not to have these fish since 1909 has really adversely affected us as a fishing tribe. And we're doing everything possible since 1909 to get our fish back, all right? I mean, that's our goal, because we want to see a fishable population. And so I believe that everyone else does too. And here's the issue here. Under the Magnuson-Stevens Fishery Conservation and Management Act, Activities that increase erosion, sediment delivery, or chemical runoff have the potential to adversely affect the EFH, which is the essential fish habitat, by degrading water quality, spawning habitat conditions. Large-scale vegetation removal, grading, trenching, and road construction associated with the project could increase sediment transport to nearby waterways connected to the Klamath River system. Sediment disposition within spawning gravels can reduce oxygen exchange within redds and significantly decrease salmon egg and juvenile survival. This is not what we intended for when we fought hard and paid, all of us paid for those dams to come out. We don't want to see any further degradation because we already have enough issues with water quality in our system that we already know about. And here's the other issue, and myself being a 40-year veteran of as a first responder, as a wildland firefighter in front of that dozer, I know exactly about wildfire risk mapping with the U.S. Forest Service and wildfire risk in communities. And here again, this project falls within a burn probability zone of approximately 1 in 100 to 1 in 46 annually. So of course, this has a higher risk, as we all know, living on the east side. The other issue that has to be brought up is that we all know that we live in a corridor of high-risk fire, which can potentially has a disruption in our electricity grid. And Pacific Corps, when speaking to President Flynn, Pacific Corps here recently, our area here in South Central Oregon is one of the highest wildfire risk for electricity disruption. And the issue for the Klamath tribes is this. We have people, just like all of us in this room, that have to require these medical devices to live. And a disruption in any of the electrical grid is going to cause heartaches. And the risk is, how much do we want risk, right? So we as the tribes right now are putting our own plan together, which we're working closely with our county commissioners, and thank you for coming, both Miss Minty and the Mr. Nichols. I'm sorry. The issue that we're working with is trying to have a wildfire preparedness plan together, an emergency plan that is going to be responsive and robust. And we're looking at trying to provide backup generators for our people that are in these medical. But here again, we need to think smartly here because we're going to be in a tough fire season along with a tough water year. The other things that we all know about with a large scale infrastructure project like this and the battery storage, and we made mention of this with a lot of the speakers that came up after I spoke last Thursday, was that what would happen if something of a natural disaster, say if a fire gets too hot and it goes through this project, what is going to happen to all the chemicals that are in those batteries, right? We all know because we're battery dependent. Where does that stuff go if that ever happened? Or an earthquake, right? Because we're in an earthquake prone area. These are some of the things that we're really concerned about. And here again,
Chairman Ray, if you could wrap it up.
you
please.
bet,
Thank
you bet. I understand. I guess lastly, and I'll just put it like this, is that we request a credible, in-depth evaluation to display the cumulative effects, not only on this project, but all the projects that's got to be evaluated that's affecting people. And here again, we already know the issues surrounding the water, the surface water, but what we haven't talked about, what I didn't see on any of those slides or any of that, is the groundwater. The groundwater is an essential part of our world. I don't care what anyone says. It connects all the aquifers together, including the surface water, because that groundwater recharges it. And we all have wells. And here again, there's a fine line that we're all walking here. I was on a data center, briefing last Friday after talking about this Thursday night. And, a data center can use 1 million gallons of water per day. A lot of people don't realize that. I didn't realize that. So, all of this, I don't know what this might use for water, even though they're saying they're not gonna use it. But here again, I believe that there will be some water use, but just to fully display all that for all of us to know, because we have a right to know. And we all have a right to know. Thank you. We have a right to know what the worst possible case scenario if there's a rupture in that battery storage. What will that look like? And, that's a right to know.
Thank you,
So,
Chairman
thank you
Gray.
very much.
Yeah. And as I said, just to address some of the issues that you raised, again, this is all information that's going to show up in the application of a site certificate. One, the council has a wildfire risk prevention and mitigation standard. Underneath that standard, wildfire risk is evaluated. And then there's also wildfire mitigation plans, that a separate one for construction and for operation, which has seasonal fire restrictions, fire equipment, set vegetative-free areas, vegetative maintenance, all of that. There's spill prevention plans and like that discuss what the gravel base is, and it addresses underneath like our soil protection standard of exactly what would happen in cases where there are spills or leaks, and the certain types of containers and storage for specifically the battery and other measures. Water is addressed underneath the public services standard. Typically for an operational solar facility, they would have a well, and under Oregon, you can have a well that withdraws, it's 5,000 gallons a day. That's an exempt well. Water generally for construction, and this is just saying generally. Again, we'll see what is proposed in the application, and then that's when we get into the guts of commenting and et cetera, of the information that's in there. And generally, construction is really the construction water is really where there's a lot of water used, and most of it's for like dust suppression and like concrete mixing. And a lot of applicants get that water from like a municipal source. So those are just some things to look out for, and there'll be more information later. Okay, so thank you again, sir. I really appreciate it. And so we're going the way that we're going to do the. So we're gonna do comments. We're gonna put a timer up. And then we're gonna call the people in the room first, and then we'll go to the people on the webinar. As I said, I have Chase and Kate. Do you have the property owner stuff? Could you pull it up? If you have a question about your property owner data, notice information, you can go over there. Also, again, in this PowerPoint presentation and on the webpage is my email. If you want to take off and email me, if you have a question about the notice or something, right? Like you don't quite want to comment or something, but you just want to clarify, just contact me and let's resolve it. But I'd also invite any of the county commissioners that would like to speak, or any representatives from the county. He mentioned the goal exception, a goal 4 exception, because the applicant is seeking the evaluation of the land use standard for the council. We would work with the county on, but the council ultimately would be doing that goal exception evaluation.
I'll make my comments very, very brief. We're learning tonight, just as the citizens of Klamath County are. Myself, my colleague, Commissioner Minty is here. We have our planning department, our planning director, public works director here, learning as all of the citizens are. As you give comments, and this is me speaking to the citizens, I encourage you, please email me your comments as well, so I can echo these when I'm in Salem, when these organizations do engage with us over this process. I'm not going to dive into the weeds because I know this is very complex and there are lots of things going on. But to the state and to the agency, I would like to say that our small community gets very apprehensive and concerned when people in Salem are pushing large corporations to do things in our community. it brings a lot of concerns to all of us. And my ask to both of your organizations is listen to our people, listen to their stories, and do everything you can to address them. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna, sorry. Oh. Thank you for that. Okay, we're gonna move through our comment sheets. So the first person I have up is Dawn Nye. If you'd like to go ahead and come up and make your comments, please. I do have a timer. I'm not able to get it on the screen, but it is on my laptop, and I'll just kind of wave to you when you're getting close, if that is okay. So 3 minutes, okay?
Okay, thank you. So I apologize if I go over a couple of things that have already been mentioned because there was some unclarity on when these comments deadline was so that we could be involved in the later hearing. So my name is Dawn and I live in Keno, Oregon. I'm very concerned about my rights to the due process of law are being violated. I didn't receive an notice of intent. I do not live within the 500 feet, but water contamination and fire don't abide by that. Of the proposed site, my right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness will also be greatly affected if this project goes in. I'm afraid for the possibility of contamination on my drinking water. I'm afraid of the possibility of my well running dry. By law, you are required to evaluate these possibilities with a study and an evaluation of the underground aquifers and streams above ground and below the ground that feed the surrounding wells, rivers, and wetlands. Has this been done? And if yes, where can we find it? Who did this study? And how are they affiliated to you guys? I'm also very fearful of losing the beautiful forest and wildlife. My family and I enjoy recreational activities in this area. We swim and play in Spencer Creek. We hike and picnic all around and in this area. We are also avid hunters. Green Diamond was given millions of dollars in grants and special programs for carbon emissions, public hunting access, forest restoration, animal wood innovations, and access and habitat program. There was, to my understanding, in even 2026, access agreement for approximately $180,000 per year, which goes through the year of 2029. What lands were a part of these grants? I know the Access and Habitat Program was a lot of money given each year with the idea to the public that this forest ecosystem and habitat would be preserved and protected and given access to the public to enjoy for futures to come. I'm also afraid of the extreme fire hazard. We are already zoned a high-risk area. What study has been done to evaluate this problem? Where can the public have access to this? I'm also concerned about the sitting council. Who will decide on this project? It has not yet been made clear if they have an oath of office on file. And that would go for the administrative judge overseeing this upcoming hearing. I would like to point out the conflict of interest in this matter. The Energy Sitting Council, the administrative judge, the ODF, the ODOE are all a part of the same body. They all get paid and are hired by the state in some way or another. The permits and approval fees and currently undergoing site certificate process with the ODOE will be distributed among the state and local agencies. I don't feel mine and the community's opposition to this project will have a fair hearing or due process of the law, considering the financial gain to the state and local authorities who will oversee this process. According to the ODOE, According to the ODOE, you must have a second proposal. What is your second proposal and where is that? At least it was on the ODOE website that in this whole process, there's supposed to be a second.
And then if you could wrap it up.
Yeah, okay.
That's what that alarm is. I
Oh.
didn't realize. I thought it was somebody's phone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and and as I had mentioned, the vast majority of the items and the issues that you raised, again, way more detail in the application for site certificate, which would come later. So the process now, we're gathering information to be able to tell the applicant the information that needs to be in the application. And so more information will come later. And also just wanted to point out that there is no second proposal requirement, and the council is a volunteer council. Absolutely, please do. We actually are always recruiting for council members, and might know the process for that. You have to go through the governor's office to that, but we encourage anybody to do that.
Okay.
Okay, next up, please.
Okay, our next commenter is going to be Annie McDougall.
This presentation and everything that they said about how we.
It's all recorded, and that's how it goes through the recording, is on that microphone.
No, I'm not shy. I want to talk to the people of Pima. Okay. All right. I'll just yell then. I want to talk to the people of Keno. What about our property rights? What about our insurance on our homes? What about our taxes on our homes? What about our wells? What about having the nuisance of this thing parked right next to, I mean, it will be parked right next to our home. I don't want that. And the presentation that told us all these things that we should be doing. All it is suffocating us with bureaucracy. That's all it is. After a while, people will not be able to keep up with every requirement to be heard. Why? Why do we need this in our backyard? When there's plenty of room. Yeah, I don't think California would be very accepting of this whole deal. But why? Who owns this company? Where's the electricity going to go? Yeah, why does it have to be in our backyard? No answers? Who owns the company? Where's the electricity going?
Orsted is the developer and will also be the operator and owner.
The company,
Orsted,
Orsted.
a company, Orsted. That's who we work
Orsted
for.
Farm.
That's who we are.
Is Orsted an American company?
It's
No,
Orsted America's.
no, it is not an American company.
Is an American company.
We will not.
It's a subsidiary of a Danish company.
It's a
And then I
Danish
think your
company.
other question was the power. These utility scale solar projects, the power is sold back to Pacificor, the utility.
Okay, where does it go? Because it's not for our community.
Well, it's for, we don't decide where. it goes.
Ma'am,
That's
if you
for
wanted to
Pacificor.
wrap up your public comment,
Yeah, 20.
let's.
It's been- Yeah, but it's not for our community. So why does it have to be in our backyard?
Thank you.
Okay,
We have our next commenter. His name is Kurt Hagen.
My name is Kurt Haugen. My fence line, the barbed wire fence is, next door to the whole project. I will be able to see it. What happens to my property value? All the research I've done, my property value can go down up to 7%. And that's to a lot of people in the community of due to the fact that on the average, about 3 miles away from a large project, and they're going over 8,000, the reading I saw was over a 5,000 acre. It can go up to 7%, 3 miles away from the project. So a lot of these people in this room right here are going to lose up to 7% of their home value. It's just going to go away. I haven't heard anything about the noise. They say a large problem with a solar farm during the day will be the hum. The hum, the power line is very close to a whole bunch of homes. What, do we get compensated for that? No. Do we lose more property value? Yes. Being this close to your project, my well is looking really bad right now. If you take a look at the inside this map, going down Clover Creek Road, it looks pretty good this year for the construction. Last year, we had about 100 inches at our house of snow. You just past our house is a flat area. We call it the flats. And as you drive, like last year, drive down Clover Creek in the flats, the water is pretty close to the top of the road. Are you going to have your fence posts how high, or your post for your solar panels? How high off the ground? That brings it up to where everybody's going to see it again. We're not talking, and I realize for the county, the city, probably the state, it's money. It's lots of money for the county, city, and state. Keno is not going to get any money. The state is going to get a ton of money. The people of Keno are going to lose money. The electricity isn't going to us, as it has been stated. We are not going to benefit at all. We are in a lose-lose situation. What happens when you guys come back in 25 years? I probably won't be here, but what happens in about 25 years when this project, the solar panels, go down? Everything you read about a solar farm, in about 25 years, they scrub the whole project.
That's the time, sir.
Where does all of that go? Are you going to leave it on site and bury it? Project, as you can see, is next to the river. You can walk.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I appreciate that. And the council does have a retirement and financial assurance standard, where the applicant is required to demonstrate that they can successfully restore the site to a useful, non-hazardous condition. And we generate a cost estimate of how much it would cost to take down that whole facility. And the applicant has to carry a bond with the state in a circumstance that they leave or go belly up to where the tax holders and the citizens of Oregon wouldn't have to pay for it. So there's actually bonding that is kept to be able to restore that site. So that is also will be in the application for site certificate. Next, please.
Can I, Kellen? Kellen, can I answer like just a couple things that and I won't attempt to answer everything because I want to give other people a chance to talk also. With regard to visual resources, which are some of the comments that were presented, we're planning on maintaining a large visual buffer. And, you know, we want to hear about like, what can you see from your homes? Again, our plan isn't to put panels right along that red line. In fact, they won't even be south of Clover Creek Road, and there'll be a buffer there. There'll also be a buffer adjacent, you know, to the residences to the south. So that's a resource that we do plan to address. And then one of the others is property values. And I encourage you to look it up. There was a study done on this by Texas A&M University with regard to the impacts to property values from solar projects, and they did find that there is really no impact, and in fact, sometimes an increase. This wasn't done by my company. This was done by a university. It's Texas A&M University. So I'll reference that study as well, which is done by a third party. Thank you.
Okay, we have our next commenter. We have James Holcomb. James Holcomb.
No, we didn't. Oh.
They've been touched on already. I'm James Holcomb, I live in Keno.
Talk into the mic.
All right, so I got some talking points.
Okay.
First of all, I agree with
Into the mic.
the property values. I don't agree with what you said. So I know if I came out to Keno, being a new buyer, and I knew that was there, I'd turn around and go away. So if that's not believable, it's probably true, but it doesn't work, right? So, you know, you can forget that deal. So anyway, so a lot of things I wanted to say, I have a lot of points. So one thing about, I think we need to extend some of these meetings and deadlines. I actually believe we need to get, you know, like a wildlife biologist or an environmental engineer. We need time to get the word out for one. I contacted the 4 people on my street close to me. Nobody knew about it. My wife printed flyers, the first page of the Department of Energy, and I walked the street last night until it starts snowing. So, but nobody knows about it. So we need time to get the word out and probably hire an attorney, right? If maybe like do a GoFundMe page or something like that. We need legal advice, and I'm willing to put something towards that if everybody else does. So my talking points were, get an extension, wildlife biologist, legal advice, the water well contaminations. It's already been talked about, but I'm thinking about if the chemicals do leak and get into the Klamath River. My house is right on the Klamath River. So if it does leak and go down, they took out the 2 dams just for the fish or for the salmon and stuff. It's going to pollute that all the way from there, all the way to the Pacific Ocean, all the way through California, period. That's just it. And then our aquifer plus that. How big is our aquifer here? Is it the whole basin? How bad is it going to poison everybody or contaminate the wells? I'm on Keno Water out there. We have a 250,000 gallon tank just right above Keno Warden Road. I pay $70 before I pull a drop of water out of it. So what happens with that? That's, you know, we owe the government that. That's a bill. So if I don't get no water, I'm not paying it. So someone's going to lose on that end of it. No one said anything about that. So the water well contamination, and then who's responsible for the end of the life? You just talked about that, right? But I don't believe any of it. When it has this life expectancy, that's done. Everyone's just going to walk away, and it's going to be litigation or whatever to get someone in there to do it. That's the way it's going to be. It's going to be like that. I guarantee it. You can shake your head all you want. That's my opinion, and that's what I'm sticking to. So the traffic during construction. They're gonna come in on Dead Indian Road and come up Clover Creek, or they're gonna come in through 66?
Oh, I guess it was on. Well, we don't have that yet because this is still so preliminary. So again, if you have specific concerns or recommendations, like if there's a blind corner somewhere, if you want to note that, that's the information right now that would be helpful for the applicant to hear, so that when they do propose traffic routes and traffic issues in the application, they can take that into consideration. So those, right, again, we're getting information to be able to help them understand how they should change proposals to their project in the application.
Have you been to Keno?
I haven't, I'm going tomorrow.
Have you been to Keno? What do you think about the roads out there? You think hold up to the construction for 20 months, 2 years?
So, when we conduct construction, we do pre-assessments of the roads, and there may be road improvements required depending on those assessments. And so that's how the roads work.
I like the
for-
roads the way they are. So, thank you. My home values, we just talked
And we
about.
do have to wrap up.
Okay,
Yeah.
so my home values, Keno gets nothing out of it. And I'm not against solar. I have solar. What about a different location? I said, who picked that spot right there and why? Just because the power lines are there? There's how many thousands and trillions of acres in Oregon? How about up 97 between here and Bend, and put it out on the sage where it's flatter? You don't have to clear cut and work the mountainside like that. Do it out there where there's no home. You don't have to deal with anybody's well water, just the rattlesnake and antelope, whatever's out there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're ready for our next commenter. We have Sheila Van Zant.
Hi, my name is Sheila Van Zant, and before I say the statement that I prepared for tonight, I just want to share a first concern. I want to share first a concern that came up just in your conversation today, Kelly. You were saying that there will be a fire mitigation plan. I'm going to read something. It's out of section J9, wildfire risk. If needed, the applicant will prepare a wildfire mitigation plan to demonstrate that the facility will be designed, constructed, and operated in compliance with OAR 345-022-0115B. You saying that we are doing it is already conflicting with what was said in the NOI. Do you want to comment on that before I make my statement?
There will be a wildfire mitigation
Okay.
plan, period.
Will that be done before
It'll
we
be-
have the next public comment?
It'll be part of the application, yeah.
If that's the case, just out of curiosity, why would you say if needed?
That was just in the notice of intent.
Correct. I read right from it. So, okay. Now I'll go into it. Again, good evening and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Sheila Van Zant and I do live in Keno, near the proposed project area. I would like to keep my comments as brief as I can. I support responsible renewable energy development, but because this project is proposed so close to our community, I believe several issues deserve careful consideration or answers before any decisions are made. My first and biggest concern is wildfire risk. Our region already faces significant fire danger, and the safety of our community should be the highest priority. I would like to understand what specific fire mitigation measures will be required for this project and whether the detailed fire mitigation plan will be developed before the project moves forward. I am also concerned about whether the presence of a large electrical facility could influence future wildfire hazard classifications in our area, including how that might affect homeowners and insurance rates in the Keno communities. Closely related to this emergency response is the emergency response capacity. Our area is rural and response times for fire and law enforcement can already be challenging. I would like to know how emergency access coordination with the local fire district and on site safety measures will be addressed so that the local responders are not placed under additional strain. And another important issue is protection of wildlife and cultural resources. I understand there may be bald eagle and golden eagle nest in or near the proposed project area. That's just one example that was mentioned in the NOI.
They are definitely out there.
Okay, there you go. This region is also historically connected to Native American communities, including the Klamath tribes. It would be important to understand what consultation has occurred, and I've learned a little bit here, but not much, has occurred with the tribal governments and whether tribal cultural monitors will be present during any ground disturbance to ensure that sacred sites and burial areas are not impacted. I have also questions about land and water impacts. Large-scale clearing of forested land can affect habitat, hunting, recreation, and normal land use in our area. I would like clarification about how vegetation will be managed, how invasive weeds will be controlled, and how the land will ultimately be restored to the project if the project reaches the end of its operational life. I would like more clarity on how the project will benefit the Keno community. For example, where are all the generated electricity we've just talked about? Where will it be used? And what long-term benefits will local residents see beyond temporary construction jobs? What other areas did you consider for this project? That was not addressed in the NOI. I thought that was very disappointing. Renewable energy is
And we do have to
important.
wrap up.
Okay, renewable energy is important, and it is equally important that projects are carefully designed to protect rural communities, wildlife, cultural resources, and public safety. And thank you for letting me have the time.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And just a response to a couple of those. So, historic and cultural surveys will be done. We do, well, you know, if tribes participate in the project, we do work closely along with the developer and their consultants, work closely with tribes. Cultural monitors on site during ground disturbing activities is very typical, particularly if tribes request it. And then there was another thing, and what was it? Yeah, thank you. And so, but thank you, there was a lot in there, and I know it just is like a generic response, it's gonna be in the application. It will, I know it's not satisfying right now, but that notice of intent is a really bare bones, we are so early in the process, right? There's gonna be a lot of information later and a lot of opportunities where we're gonna reach back out to folks. Next, please.
Okay, our next commenter is Roy Morgan.
Hi, my name is Roy Morgan. I have a few questions right off the bat. Since this is going to be a 500 kV project, who's your contact with PPL?
Sorry, one more time.
Who's your contact with Pacific Power?
Pacific Power? Pacificor, okay. We have what's called an interconnection application with Pacificor. So we're working with our interconnection group right now on an application to interconnect the solar and storage project to the grid.
And along with that, who's going to maintain that?
Maintain the solar
interconnect-
project,
The interconnection?
the interconnection. The project will have its own project substation. That's just part of our, the Orsted kind of project that we will operate and maintain. And then, of course, Pacificor maintains their own electrical infrastructure, like inclusive of that 500 kV line, and, if they need a switch yard to support that.
With that substation, are you in contact with Local 659 in Medford for a project of that size?
For what? Can you clarify?
For the construction of the project?
Oh, for construction of the project? We don't have any detail on construction of the project right now. That'll happen later with that coordination.
I know we don't have the manpower in this area to man that project. So, and normally projects of this size have to go with union or prevailing wage. So that's going to be an issue you're going to have to deal with.
Mhm.
Who's going to be paying the cost? I know you have investors, obviously, with LLC, but who's going to be paying the cost of this intertie and the any AC power grid or DC power grid?
Orsted.
Okay. To answer an earlier gentleman's question about where the electricity goes, since they're pretty well deregulated electricity, normally when any DC power is produced, it gets purchased, sold, and traded continually. So Who knows where it ends up? Is there gonna be any distribution utilities on this project?
There will just be the switch yard, right? So, ultimately, the power will go to Pacific Core, and as you said, you know, the utility essentially, decides or has, you know, oversight into where electricity goes.
And there again, is anybody made any contact with Local 659?
No, not yet.
Okay. So who's, let's see, I'm not skip that. Let's go to, what's the benefit I saw someone here earlier, what's the benefit for the volunteer fire department there in Keno? Because they're gonna be the ones to be first responders for any instance at this location. Any money in the project for hiring full-time employees, equipment to deal with this?
We haven't had a conversation about that. We have met with Keno Fire to, you know, inform them about the project, to just do some early outreach with them. So they're aware that the project's coming. And we'll continue to work with them and ensure that they're, you know, sufficiently like trained and able to do their job.
In which I have a little bit, we've been working and in contact with the Keno Rural Fire Department as well, where we anticipate it's part of the process, but we're going to identify them as a reviewing agency, which means that through the steps, we're gonna reach out to them, and get their comments and work with them. And we anticipate, that they're gonna request, to have the facility site be annexed into the service territory of the fire district, which has, you know, benefits for the fire district as well. But again, we're gonna work that relationship, and so some of those details will be worked out later as well.
And is there gonna be most of my interactions with these sites, solar is only good. Now, you're gonna back it up with a DC tie on the 500 kV line. So that takes out a lot of the distribution concern, but are you gonna have a 24/7, 365 for the life of the contract, for the life of the project? Are you gonna have a person there that we can contact in case of emergency?
Yeah, these projects are monitored 24/7. And then we have like operational folks, you know, who will be there during the operational period, not necessarily 24/7, but I think your question was more around, will somebody be available to call? Yeah, yes.
Yeah, normally a lot of these sites are not.
They're not manned full-time.
Yeah, and we have, there's a lot of issue getting in contact with emergency personnel that are dedicated to the site. So, I think I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Good questions, I appreciate that.
Okay, our next commenter is Patricia Graves.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Oh, sure. Sure, please, provide your name just so we have it on the record.
Okay, it's Dawn Nye,
Thank you,
and
Dawn.
it was not on your website. It's the National Environmental Policy Act.
Yeah.
NEPA is the
Mhm.
primary federal law requiring the evaluation of alternatives. There's a federal agency, alternative analysis, federal agency must analyze a reasonable range of alternatives to any proposed major action. And there's others, but I
Thank you.
just wanted to clarify.
And I appreciate you bring that up, because I think that's when when I forgot what my response to that was gonna be. So this is it's a state project, so this isn't not on federal land, so we're not subject to the NEPA review. A lot of what we do is functionally very similar to a NEPA review. The alternatives analysis, and this is the response over there, which I think is really important. Council reviews what is proposed in an application. So council's job, and council does not have the jurisdiction or ability to say, we don't like it here, move it over there. They only have the ability to say, this location meets these standards, yes or no.
So is there a federal law on a size limit? In other words, when a project like this is massive like this, is there any requirements for an alternative
I mean, the developer has to comply with federal law. So, right, we're like, threatened endangered species, the Endangered Species Act, they have to comply with those. But what triggers like a NEPA review is usually, involvement with either a federal agency or you're on federal land. So we're not, that's not the situation. So I hope that helps. Thank you for clarifying though.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, our next commenter is Mike Reinerston.
Hello, my name is Mike Randerson, and I'm speaking just strictly as a hunter recreational guy. And I was told that this project would have a chain link fence around it. Is that true? I have no idea.
Yeah, the arrays will be fenced. So there won't necessarily be a fence like around the larger area, like this big red, line necessarily, but around the arrays itself, and that's for safety.
Okay. Again, I'm just speaking as a hunter, outdoorsman. I've lived here 27 years in Keno, and I know for a fact that, barring biological studies and whatever you guys got to do, that there's a herd of elk that live out in Round Lake Valley, Long Valley area, and they migrate directly through this project site, spring and winter. They also use that same country to travel in, feed in, breed in, whatever. There's something that I've talked to numerous people that didn't know, that all of those little prairies out there and all that flat grass land, the sandhill cranes also have their babies out there. Seen them, taking pictures of them, didn't know what they were. They're like big fuzzy chickens. You've also got the creek, I forget the name of the creek running down through the West Spencer Creek. When I first moved here 27 years ago, I used to go up there and sit and watch the otters come up and fish for freshwater clams. There's evidence of them still doing that, but so that water tributary also runs down through this project site. It's endless. The animal disruption that's going to happen if those elk need to migrate through this area, which they do, they're either going to have to move way north and go through the wilderness area, or they're going to have to move through Keno as a town in order to migrate through into Northern California. So I'm just throwing out my concerns. I know those things will probably be addressed later with studies, but I just wanted to make sure the sandhill cranes got their deal.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, our next commenter is Linda, I believe it's Mortensen.
Hello, here we go again. I came to Keno in 1981, and I have seen a lot of projects come and go. One of them was Pelican Butte, ski resort, put a new dam on Klamath River. And then we just had to take another one out. So then they came with the incinerating plant, and they have had so many, and the commissioners are all for it because they see dollars. That's what it is. They're going to pay us so much for this, so much for that. And it's going to destroy the area. There's no doubt about it. And most of the people said that they would go hunting out there. You can't drive in there anymore. They have gates everywhere. Rocks across the road. You can't even move around in there with a vehicle. It's a bad idea, no matter how you look at it. That's my opinion. But it's just like You come up with a new one every other year. The incinerating plant, the plant down at Keno Wharton Road, they were going to burn all the waste from all the hospitals in Oregon and ship it to Keno Wharton Road and burn it. Bad idea. We were up in arms about that at that time too. And you see the same thing here with everybody, and they just don't like it. And 1 million gallons a day, plus it's a floodplain right here where you want to put it. It's a lake a lot of time a year, totally flooded all the way up to the road, like somebody said. And you have a lot of wildlife there, all the eagle, turkeys, wolves, whatever, cougars. So that's all I have to say, but it's just a bad idea.
Thank you so much. Okay, our next commenter is Paul Deanda.
Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Deanda. I'm a retired electrician, local 595. I used to work in the Bay Area down in California doing data centers. The noise is horrendous. But the main thing that I wanted to talk about was the battery arrays that are going to be put in. This is a quick question for you. You can say yes or no. Have you had fires prior in battery arrays?
No,
Zero.
I haven't had any, no, we haven't.
Oh, you haven't had any. Have you heard of them?
I have heard of that happening.
Okay, so the battery arrays are made of lithium. Okay, the chemicals that come off of lithium batteries when they burn, number one, they will explode. Then there's a second explosion. The second one is the one that's really bad because that sends the particles up into the air. When those particles hit the ground, besides being in the air, any wind that we have will send that traveling through all of our homes. That is poison. Lithium is bad, number one. But you guys say, oh yeah, you're gonna watch out for the environment. That smoke, when the dust settles, it's gonna settle down on trees, on plant life, and who eats the plants? All of the animals. All that dust is going to settle, and you guys are going to be washing away all of that dust with water. It's going to go into the water table. You guys are going to end up poisoning us with that dust. So if you guys want to have it, put it in your backyard because you don't fit, and it's obvious. This is our life. I retired so that I could have a life that I dreamt of all of my working years. And you say property values won't go down? They will plummet because we will get our insurance canceled because of a higher fire risk. We will not be able to cover it with anything because nobody's going to want to go and insure us in a high fire risk area. But all of a sudden, it's like, oh, well, maybe it's not a high fire risk. We'll clear it around there. We're down to no snow up in the upper levels that you want to go. No snow. That means our water level is going to come down. How are you guys going to keep those batteries nice and cool? Any answer?
Well, I just wanted to quickly clarify on the battery technology. So the batteries that we purchase have all been tested so that the fires
They are
don't
all
spread
tested.
from cell to cell. This is a new requirement in the last couple of years. So if a fire starts in one battery cell, it is self-contained and cannot spread to other battery cells.
That I'd like to see. That would be a dream come
So
true.
we
So you
rec-
can absolutely guarantee that there will be no fire, no explosions at all.
What we receive is studies from the battery manufacturers that show that they have tested this.
So you can't guarantee it. So when our property values plummet because of no insurance, are you guys gonna give us back the money that you said our community is gonna get? Because you donate so much to the communities that we are involved with? Are you gonna pay the difference on that? Or are you just gonna wash your hands and walk away?
Thank you so much, Paul.
Okay, our next commenter is Greg Beckman.
Try to excuse my voice. We retired here, this lovely lady on my left, who's my wife, in 2005. And one of the most beautiful things we ever saw was waking up in the morning and looking out our kitchen window. And about 150 yards away is a utility pole with 3 cross arms on it. And there was a mating pair of bald eagles sitting up there. And they left after a little while. They saw something they wanted to chew on. And after they took off, they were replaced with a couple of golden eagles. And this has gone on for a lot of years. They put in a solar farm across the road from us on Highway 140 near Orendale. And it's just winky dinker what is going on. But we only see maybe one bald eagle every couple of months. I have seen no golden eagles. The hawk population is reduced to about 10% of what it used to be, and that includes the red tails, the rough-legged, all these beautiful birds that used to be there are no longer there. I don't understand the reasoning behind this, but I do know this. I was the vice president of the Klamath Solar Association for 12 years. And we did studies on the solar panel situation here in Klamath. The reflection coming off the panels is disturbing to anything in the air, not just our feathered friends, but our brave men down here at the field that were flying their jets over. They would bank purposely to avoid the reflection of the panels into their eyes while they were flying. And you cannot tell me today or a year from now that your panels are safe for the environment, for human beings, and more importantly, for the wildlife. I will never accept that. I hope that you also consider our location in the Klamath Basin. This is a seismic 5 zone. I don't know if you have ever been in a 6.3 earthquake. My wife and I were in Los Angeles. We had our house picked up and slammed on the ground 3 times, and then it rocked and rolled for about 45 seconds. It terrorized both of us. But what it did to the buildings, you think your battery installations are going to survive that? Not on your life. I just want you to put our safety first. Consider and think that you might have to live here. We need some support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, now we're ready for Sean Hensley. Sean Hensley. I might be destroying the last name, quite frankly, but
Do you want me to look at it, see if I can decipher? Some people have left. Yeah,
okay, last call for someone named Sean.
like Sean Hensley.
Okay. All right.
Put him to the bottom.
Okay, let's go with Marshall Mosier.
My name is Marshall Mosier. We've had a lot of good comments here tonight. My perspective might be a little different, and try not to repeat some of the good things that were already said. I am recently retired wildlife ecological consultant with over 40 years experience. Don't hold that against me. This is part of a much larger thing that's happened in the county, which has been touched upon. Transmission line corridors are being planned in other places. This is going to be interconnected. When I was looking this up, I found that there's a news article within the past week of the largest solar project in the county. This was not it. This was the one up at Diamond Lake Junction. There's already a problem with some of the sites where the lines are supposed to go with multiple proposals. But there's some things that make me wonder sometimes whether there's a little stealth going on and whether there's a bootstrap operation where things are being built that the answers have not been supplied yet. I mean, and I hope this company is not involved in that too. So I'm going to go down through the points, some of the points I've got that I hope aren't too repetitious. The bonding is very, very important. But we've seen in the past that companies go out of business. And what will happen to the bonding? We want to see the guarantees if this happens to go in here or anywhere. The question was asked, who is paying for this is my further question about it. Remote users. We have a cogen plant here that's very, very clean. It's a natural gas. It's a 500 megawatt facility, which it'll supply power for 500,000 homes. That's considerably larger than Klamath County. So a suggestion I might have, and some others touched upon this, but there is places that's a lot cheaper for them to put or already owned by the government, like down the median of I-5, close to Salem, close to Portland, down in California. There's a lot of money involved. Let that not destroy our county. I'm here like a lot of the other people. This is a very beautiful place, and let's not change it faster than we have to. It'll probably change slowly. With stuff like this, it'll change much faster and not towards the better. Is it being subsidized? Or is this private investment alone, which is usually much more efficient because of hurdles that they've got to take care of, and they do benefit cost ratios where if it's subsidized, they are not really done fair. The money's there, use it. So I don't know the source of that. That can probably be answered, and it better be in the written material that comes out later. Server farms were mentioned, data centers and so on, and I think a lot of people have been made aware of how much water, noise, and electricity they use. And, Prineville and other places in Oregon. Let's put them closer to there if we're going to have these things. So I mentioned the power plant that we already have here. It's way more than the county needs. It goes out on the grid. Why put another thing here? Go beyond just fulfilling the rules. If the company wants good PR, actually do some of the things that are not required, that are good things to do. We mentioned the earthquakes, the fires, and the other things, but if you really want good PR, do that. And it'll help you in other places too if you can do a good job here. and that doesn't mean citing it here.
And we have to wrap it up, Marshall.
We're out of time?
Yes.
Okay, so, consider the size of Klamath County, the rural nature, and what's being done to it, and who's paying the bill.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Eric and Sarah Basagon.
Just wants to turn that in. That's not, they're not gonna comment on.
Okay, let's go with Brad Schleswell.
Who was the guy that wasn't here?
I think it's Sessler, Shisler. Brad.
There, Brad in the room.
Pretty sure.
Okay. Okay. All right, then we're gonna go with Douglas Hudson. Thank you. Okay, Ren Shockley.
Okay.
Before I start comment, I'm just going to try and do some niceties. I'm very nearsighted and I can't read y'all's tags. So if I could just add what your names are.
My name's Kellen, Tardyweather. And then Kate Sloan is my colleague. And then this is, Nancy Hatch behind me.
Okay, so you guys are representative of Oregon Department of Energy and you guys are representative of the company, right?
Correct.
Okay, awesome. So I've got a couple of things that I wanted to talk about on this. First off, I absolutely support responsible development of sustainable and renewable energy. The whole point of doing things, whether it's nuclear, solar, things like that, is that you don't have to literally light money on fire anymore. And, you know, the thing I was going to say with battery technologies and solar things, I'm going to get strung up for, you know, even marginally supporting this. But there's a new technology of batteries that I don't think you guys should proceed with this project unless you use. It is called sodium ion. It is being developed in China right now. It is being put into production for electric cars. The whole difference between lithium ion and sodium ion is that as lithium trends towards zero charge, it becomes more unstable. There's more energy in the system, the temperature increases, and that's where you get fires. The whole point of sodium ion is that it's about 20% bulkier, 20% less energy density, so it's about 40% less efficient for something like an electric car. But for a stationary thing, the whole point of it is that it is not susceptible to fire. It is 100% stable, unlike lithium ion. So if you guys are going to use something like that, that would make me support this project a lot more. And I think that it would also make people in this local area support the project a lot more. Because things like, yeah. Oh no, sodium. We hate salt. Oh no. The thing I was gonna say, God, I'm gonna get struck up. So when it comes to like the energy production on this, my problem is like how the energy is being allocated. Because when I look at Pacific Corp, I see that the amount of energy usage on the grid in the last couple of years has gone up by 31% with these data centers. And the amount of increase in the price that they've given to customers is 38%. There is just wanton graft and taking margin with these companies. And if this is going to be a thing where this is something that massively subsidizes power bills for families in Klamath County, then that could be something that benefits the community. But if it's a thing where this is just to subsidize increased data center activity in areas like Salem and Eugene, then what's the point in it? All it's doing is putting the cost here and putting the environmental impact here, and subsidizing these data centers. The other stuff that I wanted to say in regards to this, do I have about 30 seconds or 40 seconds left? I got a minute left. Okay. Yeah, I grew up in West Virginia. I was born in Parkersburg. I got here when I was a teenager, graduated high school in Klamath County, lived my entire young adult life in Klamath County. I live across the parking lot, actually, which is how I wandered into this. And I know the devastating impacts that can come from things like coal, but also can come from, these private chemical companies. The place that I'm from, Parkersburg, none of us can drink our own water. There's dozens of different types of cancer because DuPont put Teflon and all of these other byproducts of producing it in our water, and it gives you reproductive cancer, brain cancer, all these other things. I think that if we look at the impact of stuff like natural gas, when you look at this stuff with gas, oil, coal, you have stuff like hexane. That's a neurotoxin. That's something that degenerates the nerves in your hands and your brain, leads to things like dementia, things like Parkinson's. It affects the wildlife. So when it comes to stuff like solar, if it's coupled with other forms of energy that are going to be effective, then I'm fine with that. If it's going to be something where it's a lot safer than natural gas and coal, which it all universally is, then I'm fine with that. But just please do this in a way where you respect the migration of these animals. I hunt. I grew up hunting all the time. And the big thing I think about is disruption of the ground, dust in the water table, things like this. And if you're going to have, these conversion centers where all of the power is generated goes onto the power lines, please have it be in an area where it's far enough away from a house that it's not going to be a sound issue. And one more thing. If it's going to be a pre-existing trail that goes through, please allow for like 500 yards or something of trees and things so that people don't have to see it or that the glare is not affecting them. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Ren. Okay, next up is Ron and Kathy Dubry.
Have they left?
No.
Oh. Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay, looks like we have Gina Janelle. Gina Janelle. There it is. Awesome, thank you.
You can keep it a file. Didn't want to. Okay.
I'm Gina Janelli. I don't live in Keno, but I'm an avid photographer and outdoors person and hunter. One of the things that I was the one who's brought up the Forest Practice Act that you brought up. My understanding for the Forest Practice Act, it states that clear cuts cannot exceed 120 acres on private or public lands and mandates replanting within 2 years, among other requirements. If this project is allowed, it will violate everything of that project, or that Protection Act. The trees will never be replanted. The acreage will be well over what is required, which is 120 acres. And so that act alone is voiding what we had set in Oregon to protect our forests, not allowing clear cuts to go through and just clear cut stuff for whatever reason that they wanted to do it for. Also, the timber industry was almost put to a halt in Oregon because of the spotted owls. And that was just one species. If this goes through, it will not just be disturbing one species, it'll be disturbing all kinds of different wildlife in this area. And the 8-foot fence that's going to go around this to protect animals from going in. I was a wildland firefighter, all right? I'm only here by the grace of God because I was trapped one time because of fire. If you have a fire that breaks out there, in the compound, around the compound, you're gonna have firefighters gonna go in there, try to take care of something, and you bump into something like an 8-foot fence, you're not gonna see it. You can't have, the smoke is so thick, you can't even see where you're going. You're trapped. And I don't care how good you try to make fire protection for this stuff, when this happens and you have lives on the line, trying to protect Keno, trying to protect the wildlife, trying to protect the forests, you're putting these people's lives on the line. And there is no benefit for our county at all in this. All you're doing is taking this and using it for some other agenda that is not going to benefit our county at all, but destroy the beautiful wild areas that we have, that we hike in, that we photograph in, that we hunt in, that we horseback ride in, that we do all of these different things that we do, and we do it and respect our culture and the stuff that we have here. This is something that we need to really take a look at, because when they said 120 acres to protect our forests, they weren't kidding. But all of a sudden now we're going to throw that away, and all of a sudden now all the spotted owl issue will away out. We had all of this regulations that we couldn't do because of the spotted owl. Now it's like throw that all away. I'll throw that all away, and then go ahead and say, okay, we could go ahead and put a big solar array out there, wipe out the trees, wipe out everything. And I think that's just a waste of our beautiful resources and this county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Rachel Hannon.
Can everybody hear me? Thank you. My name is Rachel Hannon. I live in Keno. I live off of Ponderosa, which is in the neighborhood that is the last neighborhood before you hit all these tracts of forest. My family on my dad's side has been in the Paisley area since 1842. I moved back here from Wyoming recently. I am also pretty hippy dippy. No surprise. I point that out because I think that you need to understand that the group of people that you're talking to is not homogeneous and is not. If you have an issue where Tree Hug and me and Jim next door agree about something, you need to understand that's a really big deal. The thing that has benefited me the most about this conversation and this whole issue is realizing how really cool my neighbors are and what we agree on, and that we really fundamentally share a real love for this place here. That said, I don't know that those are the stories that is of interest to either of these bodies, and that's what I'm here to ask questions about. Okay, so I'm somebody who's going to be convinced by studies. I've taught college level research methods. Studies are averages. We are not average. You need to talk about what's happening with this specific terrain in these specific conditions. Studies produced by the company that's selling you the batteries. My students would fail if that's what they used as evidence for their papers. So what I need to understand here is this group, volunteer group? I asked if I could volunteer. You'll probably be hearing from me. Don't know if you're going to love that. The recommendations that your group makes and the considerations that it takes. Is the group aimed at determining whether the project is strictly legal and strictly meets all of you're required to have wildfire mitigation, you're required to have X, Y, and Z? We all know that there is flexibility in interpretations. So what I need to understand about the group doing the review and making the proposal is from what perspective those interpretive areas are going to be addressed. Are they addressed from the position of, well, so long as it's legal and as long as we can't maybe hopefully get sued for it, then yes, we will recommend it? Or is the group interested in, this is a place that matters to the people who live here? And we live, I mean, I can make my arguments. I know that this is a forum for questions and answers about procedures and stuff, right? So I can make those arguments another time. But what I need to understand is, to what degree do our stories about this place, which is a really important place for my family, to what degree do those stories matter to this recommendation board?
So I appreciate that. Thank you. So I did have that list of standards up there. So you led off with, you know, studies and science and unbiased and then ended with, to what extent do our feelings and opinions and values in the area matter?
So I was second late, so if I missed it, I apologize.
Quite a spectrum. So I'm going to focus on what those standards are, and if you like studies, it's not an average. Everything is very site specific. Qualified biologists go out and field survey. Same thing with archaeologists and historians. They're
paid by whom?
They are paid by the consultant, but then those studies are then submitted to us that we review in consultation with ODF and W, with Dogami for any geotechnical work that's done, you know, like Department of Environmental Quality. So, you know, like we corroborate that information, and then that is what that you can get to dig into. And if you can read the language of the standard, and that's what in that draft proposed order, the next time there's that real important comment period, we want you to go in and read our findings of fact and conclusions of law, because that's where we pluck out what does the rule say and what did they give. We say it's an evidentiary process that we have. And then you can go in and be like, I disagree with that because of blankety blank, 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 blank. That's what we want, right? So,
so does that mean that, I mean, in order for folks to disagree with something like that, you are asking to have people who are sufficiently qualified to make those judgments? So I do want to say that the recommendation that came up earlier to start a GoFundMe for a lawyer and our own biologist, et cetera, is probably the best idea I've heard here tonight. But again, I don't think my fundamental question has been answered, which is the body interested in, yes, the proposed project meets the letter of the law. Yes, biologists have taken this stuff into consideration. We've checked all that stuff off. So therefore the recommendation is to go forward? Or actually, no, the recommendation is still not to go forward because we think that these other issues are as important.
what other issues that you don't like it? Yeah, the community. Yeah.
So
yeah, no, that is, there are standards and it's evidence for the standards. And you know, I'm just going to be quite frank with you.
So are we wasting our time telling you about our experiences here?
No, because it matters, because we're all human.
Does it?
However,
there's for this process.
Yeah, it matters. It matters, but it has to fit within a standard to be able to, for the council to weigh in its decision of yes or no. It matters because that's why we're here and we're all human. But when we get into whether or not council decides on whether a standard is met, yes or no, that's where we rely on the evidence. And that's not what I said, ma'am. Okay, thank you so much. That's not what I said, and that's why we're here, right?
Is there a standard for how valuable the space is to the community?
No.
It is.
And you can always, if you would like to change, our standards are based off of our rules, which is the Oregon Administrative Rules, which are then based off of the statutes, the Oregon Revised Statutes. If any folks don't like what they're seeing, you can contact your legislature and you can get legislation that changes statutes, and then we can change the rules to reflect the statutes. That's what we do. It's what it says. It's what we do. And that's how you can change it at like a core base. But thank you so much, but let it be mindful of time and we're gonna proceed. But thank you.
Okay, just one last call if there's anybody in the room who hasn't given me a comment sheet that would like to make a comment tonight. Okay, we're gonna open it up to the phone line, but go. Okay, some of you just didn't say, oh, hold on.
Sorry, folks, that's why we're doing. All right.
Okay, so I will be extremely brief.
No, that's
The
okay. You can take your
original
3 minutes.
comments-
Could you tell us your name though?
Oh, my name is Christine Karras.
Okay.
And, the comments that I put on my.
Please, folks, we're still going. Thank you.
Many of them have been answered. For example, do you need to comply with the Endangered Species Act? And you said yes. Okay, but what I want to say is that this project is not just going to affect this local area. It could affect people.
Please, folks, we still have people giving comments.
Thank you.
It's going to affect people all the way down the river. And your method of going within 500 feet of the project or something is it's not adequate. Now, I personally contacted some of the downstream tribes who have the same interest in the salmon as the Klamaths and many of us. But, you know, the process that you are required to follow as an employee, I used to do environmental compliance, I get it, says, you know, you only have to go 500 feet. But I'm here to say that that's completely inadequate. And secondarily, to hold a meeting on a weeknight during the supper hour, you know, everybody's got to go home and feed their livestock, feed their dogs and everything, and to have this meeting at this time is probably not a very good idea. I'd start it later so that people could participate. Yeah, or on a Saturday. So, okay, that's all I want to say.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, hold on one second, let me catch up. First of all, if you turned in a sheet and I did not call your name, please raise your hand and we'll get you first. There was a box on here that says you wish to address us, and if you didn't check that, that's why I didn't call on you.
I'm told first, I'm calling you if I have.
Okay, come on up. It's been a little crazy, so I apologize if my memory is not perfect.
And please just provide your name, sir.
My name's Bill Skidmore.
Hi, Bill.
My property borders on the barbed wire fence that is put up on that property line. And you're wanting to destroy the forest behind my house. I have lived in my house for 20 years, raised my children. I have retired there. I think you need to think about the federal aspect of this, because displacing bald eagles from their nesting grounds and where they hunt and feed is federal. So you will have to go through federal to get this through. So I too have a well, and it's a good well. It has been for 20 years. I keep my property green in the summer for fire protection. We're always worried about fire out there. We have to be. And you guys want to put in something that could cause a fire. Doesn't make sense to me that you want to tear down all the forests out there, 8,600 acres of it, and put this in, and then it could cause a fire, let alone poison all our wells and all the water in the area. Now, not too many of us think highly of the government in Salem, because they don't do a damn thing for us, except for, you know, oh, let's tax us some more. Just, it doesn't make sense. So, and you saying if we don't like it, get a hold of our representatives. All representatives and all government officials in this state are elected by people from Portland, Salem, Eugene, and Salem. That's who elects our officials in this state. It isn't the rest of the state, because the rest of the state is red. So I'm hoping that your part of the government will analyze this and see what a boondoggle it is. Because the people that are affected by this, and a lot more people than that, and I think you saw, you got a lot more people than you expected tonight. And so, yeah, we don't get a chance to elect our officials because we don't have that option. But we do not want this in our backyard. And I specifically don't want it in my backyard. And that's where you're going to put it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, not just like, there are other avenues. There are other interest groups that are related, even if you don't want to use your legislature to go and propose your legislation. There are groups that are interested in energy development. That's one avenue. One thing close to home to the council, you can participate. We have council meetings every month. You can call into them and you can provide public comment to council about what you think their standards should say. Council does have the power to create their own standards. And we also do rulemaking, where you can, usually it's like revising existing rules, but you can participate in rulemaking. So there are other avenues and we encourage people to do that. Yes.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I mean, I don't have any like off the top of my head, but I know that there are people that basically like lobby the government on, for pro-energy development and anti-energy development. I'm not sure where to find them, but you can look into groups that lobby for legislative concepts during session, because there are lots of them, pro and against energy development.
Can I just add too, as the developer, like, we'd love to talk with you, like, we're a resource also. For what it's worth. We're available, we'll pick up the phone, we're available to meet.
Okay, double checking. I do see your hand. I know you want one, and there's a gentleman there that would like one. I'm just making sure that I didn't miss anybody who turned in a comment sheet first. Want to make sure that I didn't miss anybody. I didn't, so go ahead now, ma'am. Okay. You need to come up here to the microphone and state your name, please.
Hi, my name is Karen Bailey. I came here tonight purely as an informational type thing. I'd read an article about it in the Herald and News and was just kind of wanting to know what was going on. I don't live in Keno. I don't hunt. But I do appreciate the environment. I'm curious as to why you guys, your company, has chosen this piece of land that has trees on it and animals, as opposed to all this land that's around us that's bare.
A few bullet points there. One is the landowner desires a solar project on the land. It's a industrial timber harvesting operation. It's in close proximity to high voltage electrical transmission, which is necessary for these projects to be built. And then at a higher level, Pacific Core, the utility, desires more renewable energy in their portfolio.
Okay.
They're more, I could go on and on, but there's a couple, a few
Okay,
bullet points at least.
So, yeah, I was just curious as to why this particular piece of land was so appealing and served your needs as opposed to so much other land that's around that has nothing on it.
Yeah.
So, thank you for your answer.
Thank you. Bobby.
You gotta come up to the table.
I'm sure everybody can hear me.
But
It's for our recording.
So it's going over to, yeah.
All right, my name is Bobby Fisher. I first lived here in 1970. I moved back again in 1978.
Sir, speak into the mic. It's a recording. It's not just the people in the room, it's the recording.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, I don't need this, but you do. So anyway, I've lived here quite a long time, off and on. But my big question is, where is the Green Diamond people that represent this property that you wish to use? They're not here to represent themselves. They're relying on you to do so for them. We understand the reason why you desire this piece of property. I know right where those power lines are. I know right where the sites that you're going to want to know where they are located exactly. I can walk you right straight to them. But the fact is, it doesn't mean anything really, because you're going to do what you said earlier, Ann, and that is you will accommodate those specific sites by moving it somewhere within the boundary that's been selected. Its forest is our point. I think that's the one thing that everybody here has brought out. So please, and when we have our next meeting, we'd like to see representation from Green Diamond, because they're the people that should be listening to us, because they're the people that decided to let you do this. And it's wasting your time and your money in the event that they change their mind, or maybe they're not allowed to. That's that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby.
Okay.
Last call for anybody in the room. I'm going to open it up to the phone lines now. Okay, so if you are on the phone line and you would like to make a comment, excuse me, at the bottom of the webinar window, there is a set of icons. Click on the participant, and you're going to click on the hand icon, which will raise your hand to make a comment. And when you are finished commenting, you can go ahead and click that again to lower your hand. If you are on the phones, press *3 on your keypad to raise your hand, and then press *3 again to lower your hand. Okay, my first hand up is for Michael Beckstolt. Michael, hold on 1 second and I will unmute your mic. Don't mess with your mic, Michael. Let me do it for you, please. Okay, maybe you should try it yourself, because I think we're playing tag with your mic.
Okay, his mic is not unmuting.
Usually Nancy does it.
Yeah, Mike, you want to go ahead and try unmuting your mic? I'm not able to get it on my end for some reason. Let's see.
It's not doing. No, it's.
Oh, we don't know what it is.
It's just sick.
Can you unmute all?
No, that's view all.
Is it because you're
Oh.
unmuted? Okay. Is that only one mic can be on at a time?
No.
Okay.
That's the recording.
All right, Michael, I am unable to get your mic unmuted. I apologize for that. If you wouldn't mind, you can go ahead and write your comments in and send them in to us. I apologize. Yeah, you could certainly log off and log back in again. Sometimes it's a glitch in the system. All right, is there anyone else who would like to make a comment online? If you want to raise your hand, I can open it up for you. Okay, I see no hands at this time. Oh, Michael, you got it. Mike, your mic is open. Go ahead and speak.
Okay, I'm Mike Bechtel. I'm a retired forester here. I've lived in Keno for about 35 years. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. So I'll make about 5 points. It's all about location, location, location. In Oregon, we have a shrinking forest land base. The Northwest Forest Plan, you can only harvest about 20% of 20 million acres of federal land. The Oregon Department of Forestry lost the Elliott State Forest, which was 83,000 acres of land. Recently, the Private Forest Accord limited all harvesting in riparian zones and headwalls. We've had over 1 million acres of timber land, primarily on the Cascades in eastern Oregon, burned. So when you take that into cumulative effects, we have a shrinking forest land base. So why are we considering shrinking the forest land base even more? That's one point. The other point is your carbon footprint. When you take forest land out of production, you're taking the capacity of a forest to sequester carbon, which is a big issue when you talk about climate change. And you're talking about taking permanent forest land out of production, which would reduce the carbon sequestration potential. So that needs to be addressed. How much carbon sequestration potential are you taking out? I was wondering if the county commissioners are still there, and if they are, not only should Green Diamond be concerned about the comments that are coming in, but the county commissioners should also be concerned about taking forest land out of production, because they are the ones that approved the recent one up on Highway 97. Lastly, I haven't heard any, and this will come out in the details. What is the benefit, the financial benefit, to Green Diamond and the counties for the tax revenue? We heard during the presentation from one of the speakers from the company that there's been billions of dollars benefiting the communities and tax revenue. So what is that? What's Klamath County? And is that the reason the Klamath County recently approved the solar project up 97? Is it financial reasons? Because again, forest land was taken out of production. So I'll provide my written comments to address these points and some other ones. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment, Michael. I appreciate that. Okay, are there any other people online who would like to make a comment? If you wanted to raise your hand, we can go ahead and open it up for you to comment. Okay, I have no hands raised at this time. We're going to give you a minute. Oh, wait, I've got one now. Megan, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your mic. You are ready to make your comment.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. So hi all, my name is Megan Crosby. I live in Keno as well. Thank you for allowing me to comment. I also just want to give my gratitude and thanks to all of the elders that are holding it down over there right now with these comments and advocating for our incredible, incredible Mother Earth. And so I guess the point I want to get across is, Orsted, you're not welcome here. Period. Okay? No one seems to really have said it just yet, so I'm going to say it down and lay it down for the community. You're not welcome here, your community or your project will ruin the earth in 7 generations to come. So tell your big bosses, Rasmund, I think your CEO, y'all are worth almost $200 billion. Some Danish company coming in trying to usurp Earth's power for their own gain. Absolutely not. And I'll leave it at that. Much peace and love, y'all.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else online that would like to make a comment? Okay, last call for anybody online.
Just let her just confirm that there's.
Okay, we're gonna shut down the online comments, and we do have another person in the room who would like to make a comment.
Zach? How do you pronounce your last name?
Oh, it's
Yes.
not on.
Cersei. My family's been in Keno since the early 1900s. I left, came back, always knew I would. But I think one thing that nobody's really talked about that I noticed is, what does that acreage equate to in lost timber jobs?
I can't speak to that directly.
Sure.
I think
So
that'd
that's
be
what
a
I'm
better
saying.
question for
I don't know, Green Diamond.
possibly Green Diamond to
Right.
answer, and, we can let them know that question came up.
Yeah, I think that's the only question on there. Everybody I know growing up found artifacts out there. That area is riddled with Native American artifacts. Not only the migratory, that's one of the biggest areas in Oregon for migratory eagles. And a lot of other animals. So I don't really think that would be a good area. There were actually 5 wildlife biologists here tonight, and their comments were, this is the worst area that you can put this in. So that's what's coming.
Thank you, Zach.
All right. Thank you. All right, who else in the room would like to make another comment?
And then I think after this, we'll wrap it up. Oh, turn your microphone on. Thank you.
My name is Jan Moitsen and I am Danish. And don't hold that against me. My question to you, when you did your presentation, it was Phoenix and Texas. They have vast area of land. There's
You should
nothing.
have talked into the microphone.
There's nothing on this land in Phoenix and Texas. Why chose Klamath? There's trees, there's rivers, wildlife. Why do you want to destroy that? That's just my question.
I did provide a couple of reasons why this site is suitable for solar.
Well, it's
I will
because,
say
it's because the power line is there. That's what it is. You already have the power lines right there. You just have to plug it in. So you don't have to build any infrastructure, nothing. It's just why there?
Well, first, the landowner desires solar there, and that's necessary. Also proximity to high voltage transmission.
Yeah.
And then there are other siting considerations too, that we take into consideration. But also the utility Pacificor, desires additional renewable energy in their portfolio
Oh, okay.
to address,
I
electricity
can see
demands.
that. That was my question.
Thank you. I am going to remind folks that the comment deadline has been extended to March 20th at 5 PM Pacific. Nancy, can you go back to how to submit a comment and all the different ways? So at this point, email it directly to me. We have a comment portal. You can mail it to the office. There we go. So I really, you all are a very impressive community. I really appreciate everybody coming out. This is awesome. This is what we want. We come here because we want to hear all of this, and the developer needs to hear all of this. So we'll close the comment period. You can look back at this PowerPoint, which says kind of the next steps of what we'll do next. There was a lot of process earlier, but we're gonna issue that project order, but the developer has 2 years to submit their application, right? So, before the notice of intent expires. So, and I'm not sure, they had put their schedule up there, so it might take, they're gonna spend a year doing that survey work and studies and stuff, and then they might submit their application like within a year to 2 years. So it's a process, right? And then, we'll come back and remind everybody, and we'll do this all over again. And I'm looking forward to it. You are a great community. Thank you.